I just wanna have peace. Pay for the bill, let them take my card, never see the receipt. Good health, we prize, but everybody around prosperity.
What's up, guys, and welcome to the Live Better podcast. This is your host, Jay Ciano, and this is the show for people trying to optimize every area of their life. Let's go.
I just wanna have peace.
All right, guys, so welcome to another episode of the Live Better podcast. Today I have my friend Corrine Phelps, who's a former D1 athlete and someone who traded in a career in luxury real estate to go all in on personal development, entrepreneurship, investing. Needless to say, we're super aligned. Corrine spends a lot of her time focusing on helping other people with overall wellness, focusing on breath work, obviously fitness, and many other things. We dive into several topics that I love expressing, like alcohol, HRV, the impact alcohol has on HRV, just general things that I'm really trying to think about more myself. And the Live Better podcast for me is a tool for me to extract other things from people that are further along than me on their journey and that I can learn from. So I know you guys are going to really learn a lot from this episode. So welcome to the Live Better podcast. Corrine, I'm really excited to have you as a guest and can't wait to get to know you better.
I am equally as excited, and I can't wait to dive in and, I don't know, see where this goes.
Right? That's the beauty of this stuff. So I've been following you on social and I'm very intrigued. So you are a former D1 athlete and you had a career in luxury real estate, which we could talk a lot about. And you basically transitioned to becoming an entrepreneur, starting your own business. And I'm not even going to try to explain what you're currently doing because I want you to do that for me. So why don't you tell the audience exactly what it is that you do, and then we'll kind of back it up and see how you got here.
Yeah, so I work with high performers, high achievers, a lot of CEOs and founders. And what I do is I coach on the nervous system level. I help you perform at a higher level based on the status of your nervous system, which ends up helping you make more money, perform better, feel better, live better. And this all sort of was an evolution of 15 years in the fitness industry, teaching, coaching, yoga, Pilates, personal training, nutrition. And it sort of evolved into this because I found that I was always working with, whether it was professional athletes or high achievers, and most of the blocks and stumbling, like obstacles that they were facing were never physical. Well, physical, but not in the way that we're talking about when you think of like moving your body physical.
So, I mean, now I feel like we're even more aligned. So you have a fitness, real estate background and you work with high performers. It makes sense that we're talking. So lots of questions. I'm really intrigued because I consider myself a high performer and I am always looking to unlock cheat codes to perform better. And so explain the nervous system thing because it's foreign to me. And I'm sure that as you explain it, it won't be so foreign.
Well, you know, it's not as foreign to you as you think it is because I see you in the ice bath. I see you in the sauna, and those things are actually expanding your nervous system. And your nervous system has this like physical component. It controls your heartbeat, your heart rate, lots of different things in that regard. And those impact our performance. Like imagine you're getting ready to go talk to a client trying to close a really big deal. And if your heart rate and heartbeat are kind of out of control, your client is going to pick up on that. And sometimes that builds a lack of trust. So that's one place that's really important and we work on. But also your nervous system is part of your subconscious mind. And so inside of our subconscious mind is this operating system that really drives what we do, how we show up, what we think, what we feel, all of the things. And a lot of times the things that stand in our way are in that place. And so between the physicality piece and upgrading that operating system, when you get those things in alignment, you really are unstoppable.
So what sport did you play in college?
Soccer.
And tell me a little bit about your background in real estate. And then we'll come back to the nervous system because I have lots of questions there. And I feel like I'm almost like, working on these things haphazardly on my own, and I'd love to, understand exactly how you help people kind of do the things that I'm looking to achieve myself. But take us into the real estate world.
Well, so I graduated from college as a single mom. So it took me a little bit longer. I had my daughter in college, which kind of deviated my sports career and a lot of different things. And I graduated with a nutrition degree, but
Best
I
gift
ended
ever,
up
by the way, obviously. Right? Our children are what we do it all for. So
absolutely. She was a gift. She probably saved my life, right? Drove me to be a hard worker, took my work ethic to a whole nother level. Probably part of the reason why I needed to learn about my nervous system too. And we always teach what we need to learn. So I was thrust into the real estate industry in my very early 20s. I was 22 years old. The market was hot as all get out. And I had no clue what I was doing in an extreme luxury market. I'm from the Washington, D.C. area, and I was in for a minute before the tank, before everything fell apart. And I was young and I was naive and I was doing really, really well for a while. But I also had a lot of things to learn. And what I think at that era of my life, I was just not made of what you need to be made of to be in that industry. There are actually moments now where I'm like, I probably should dive back in because I would be wicked good at it now.
yeah, that's great.
Yeah. But when I was in my 20s, I had this like naive sort of idea of just like, you can trust everything that everybody says and that, yes.
Yeah. It's funny because I always say that I have such a love-hate relationship with the real estate industry. And, I started in real estate, not residential, commercial, but I started right after losing my mother to cancer. So I was also struggling, not really, I would describe myself similarly to you from like just being a little bit naive as to who you could trust, and so on and so forth. And, especially in like a kind of a dark place in my life, just, learning to deal with the loss of my mother while trying to make it in this really like, commercial real estate, especially in New York, is the type of business that people don't even necessarily stab you in the back. They stab you in the front. So it's like, and New York's a different animal in general, and I've over the 23 years that I'm in real estate, I've definitely built these tools to, better understand how to, work with folks that don't necessarily have your best interest and navigate that. And that's, life experience, maturity, but all, developing resilience, all those things. So I think you could absolutely crush real estate now with all of the life skills that you have. But I also commend you for understanding and deciding to transition if it wasn't something that was really, you were aligned with at that time in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. I found myself crying a lot of times. And I thought to myself, I have this young daughter. This is not what I want to model to her. And when I graduated with a nutrition degree, it was not real estate that I thought that I was going to do with my life. And I had this moment of like, I don't want to look back and regret. And I don't want to just be doing something because somebody told me I was going to make a ton of money at it. And I was doing really, really well. But the emotional, I guess, roller coaster that I was on wasn't serving me. So one day I just was like in a Pilates class and completely had the most mind-blowing experience. I was already working out all of the time, but in this Pilates studio, I was like, wow, I'm pretty much getting accomplished in one session it was taking me multiple sessions in the gym to achieve. And I felt so good. And I thought, you know what? This is what I'm going to do. I did some math on what I thought what the girl was making. And I just burned my real estate career instantly to the ground because I was like, I don't want to have the draw to just go back. Like I wanted to go all in. And the only way I knew how to do that was just to like burn the bridges. And that's what I did. And very quickly found out that just being an instructor was not going to compensate me in the way I had been accustomed to.
Sure. I can understand that as well. Representing SolidCore, a DC based company. So what company was it that you were teaching for or coaching?
I started just at a small independent, and then I quickly went over. I opened the Equinox, the first Equinox in the Washington, D.C. area. Nice. I taught there for a little while, and then went on very quickly to open my own brick and mortar studio, which I ran for about 3 years with a business partner. Found out that I've never been married, and this was my I get to chalk this up to my bad marriage, right? The divorce that I get to put under my
Exactly.
belt, and then moved my business home from there.
Yeah, I work with a lot of founders, especially in the fitness wellness space, where oftentimes the first conversation we have is I wish that I would have met you, 5 years ago. You could have saved me so much time, energy, and money, and all of those things. So I feel you. I completely understand what you're saying. So fast forward to what you're doing now. So how do you help your clients? How do you really take them through your program to help them, I guess, control their nervous system or develop their nervous system? Explain.
A few ways. So breath work is definitely a cornerstone of my coaching practice, which is a differentiator because a lot of executive and high performance coaches aren't using that as the cornerstone piece. And I use it in two ways. I do it from a subconscious level. I use hypno breath work, which infuses that upgrading your subconscious mind. But we always also use coherence breathing so that you can expand your HRV, which allows you to basically learn to drive your nervous system like a race car driver. So if you're getting ready to go on stage and speak, or you have a high stakes conversation, or maybe it's just a conversation with your partner that really you want to show up and be, not triggering to them or be triggered by them, you can use this practice after using it in like a very specific format. You start to get in touch with what that feels like to be really regulated so that you can show up, communicate clearly, effectively, and at the top of your game.
I need more of this in my life. So how long, breath work I'm familiar with. I don't do it enough.
Yeah.
But explain what type of breathing did you just mention?
So hypno breath work and then coherence-based breath work. Yeah. So the coherence-based breath work, we all have kind of a very specific cadence for this, but the 4-6 pattern is pretty close to a baseline. And you can actually, through an app, I use Elite HRV, but I think you're a Whoop fan as well. That's another way to monitor your HRV, but I use Elite HRV during a breathing pattern that lasts anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes. And you do it just like you would a gym workout. And you're able to actually start to increase that HRV number with this practice. And then because you've done that and you've built that awareness, which is essentially like biofeedback, then you're able to implement it in key moments when you need to.
So yeah, I'm fascinated with HRV because I feel like it's one of the toughest things to, I don't want to say manipulate, but to enhance. It's right. It takes into consideration so many different things. And I when I'm in flow and I'm doing all of the things, obviously, my HRV is much stronger, and I've been looking for different ways to increase my HRV. And this is something that I need to focus on for sure.
Yeah. So it's just like a KPI indicator, and everyone's is kind of unique. And I know that you use Whoop, Whoop only takes your HRV in the evening time or while you're sleeping, because it wants to capture your data at a very controlled time so that you're not driving yourself crazy looking at these numbers and really not being able to decipher them well. And really what all it's showing you is how your body's responding to stress. So the more we get dialed into how our day is going, what are the things that throw us off, and then using practices like this coherence breath helps you expand your container so that it stays at a more high level. And instead of feeling like you're, at falling behind when the number is low, we get to just take a look at what are the adjustments that we get to make and what are the things that feel really good in your body.
So what are your non-negotiables as far as your routine goes in the morning? Take me through a normal, or not necessarily the morning, just your daily kind of rituals.
Yeah. So I try to be a little bit flexible with them in that I had found myself in a place where we do all the things, the red light, the ice plunges, the breath work, and it starts to be checking the boxes, which I love to check the boxes, literally and metaphorically. I like to check the boxes and I love doing all of those things. But when those routines start to actually cause stress for us, then we're now entering into a counterproductive thing. Like, oh my gosh, this is taking all this time, but I got to do it because if I don't, then I'm not. And so I try to be a little bit flexible with that. But non-negotiables would be when my alarm goes off, which I use the alarm on Whoop, which is like the most
Me too.
wonderful, kind
Yeah.
way to wake up with just a little vibration on your wrist rather than an awful alarm in my ear. So that's a
Totally.
non-negotiable to start. And I usually pop some sort of audio into my ears. I love to listen to a meditation or something that has like binaural beats, and I start to visualize how I want my day to go. Sometimes I even drift back to sleep for a few minutes. But what I find that when I set my tone that way, I wake up just feeling so good, so resilient, almost like I'm wearing a bubble and it doesn't matter what happens in my day, it's going to bounce right off of me. So that's first. Then I get up. I got to get a workout in for sure. I drink a bunch of water first thing. Straight off of the bat, I take some supplements. I do athletic greens, a couple other things inside of there. I try to wait to have coffee until like after 10 o'clock, and I'm a 1 coffee girl. I do not have past that time. I know that it will keep me up. So that's kind of how my morning starts. Somewhere in there, I'm going to do a breathwork session, but I like to use breathwork, the like conscious connected breath, midday, kind of like you would a cup of coffee. It's invigorating and it helps drop me back into flow. And before I would do that, I probably would have had a deep work session. I love to put binaural beats on in the background for my deep work. So I usually make sure I have 2 hours of that before I do anything else. And I absolutely will not look at my phone or touch my email before like 9 a.m. It's a non-negotiable. And I have noticed HRV wise and sleep wise, if I do that, and in the nighttime too, I have a specific cutoff point where I am like, I am not doing it. And of course I'm not perfect, but I can feel, actually, I've become so attuned to it that when I'm looking at my phone, if I do like the doom scroll in bed, because I feel for whatever reason, I can literally feel my nervous system responding to it in a way that's not good. So those are,
what time at night would you put your phone down for good?
For good, absolutely. By no later than 9 p.m. I strive for 7 p.m.
7.
I strive. I said
I'm out of business if I put my phone down at 7.
We all get to create our schedules. I strive.
Fair.
7 is like I have really executed a perfect day. It's a rare occasion. But yes, 9 p.m. because I try to be in bed by 10. And so I want an hour away from my phone.
Yeah, no, I get that. Do you drink alcohol?
Occasionally, not very often, and that will wreck your HRV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your drink of choice?
Would be a glass of wine. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that funny thing is I have actually come to realize too, is that red wine is worse for your HRV than a glass of white or rosé. And I pretty much, and we share, I know you're really good friends with Anne Malum. I'm friendly with her as well. And she really was the, I guess, real stretch for me, or like push for me to start to just like really step away from it. I actually had her on my podcast talking about,
no way.
Yeah. About a year ago,
so funny.
About, stepping away from alcohol. She really inspired me. And I was like, damn, she's a super expander for me. So I got to really start paying attention to this. And when I started paying attention, I really started to understand how much it was impacting me.
That's funny because Anne, obviously being the uber achiever that she is, one day she always checks up on me, and I was doing 75 hard for the 3rd time, and she's like, tell me, like, I mean, like, I could obviously do it, it's really not that difficult. It's more of like just a routine and, I said, you know what, Anne? I said, you could, but you actually would fail because of your drinking. And she it was like the funniest conversation, because I know when I drop a seed in her brain, exactly. It's the same thing with me. Like if somebody says something to me and I'm just like, holy shit, it's like a realization, right?
Yeah.
And she was like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, I don't think you can go 75 days without drinking. And she was like, wow. I just don't want to right now, like totally like, I'm like, okay, I just, listen, I think you'd have a tough time with it. And boom, that sparked exactly what she went into from there, the 90-day alcohol-free challenge.
Yeah.
So it was funny. It was literally like, that was the spark for her to do that. And we're always talking about like just all the things, but alcohol has always been this like underlying life hack where, the less you consume. I'm not against alcohol. I mean, I drank for a long time, probably, problematically on some level, but I wouldn't call it didn't like ruin my life. I was just having maybe too good of a time. at
Yeah.
times, but when I removed it entirely, it's been the biggest cheat code in life for me.
I would agree. I think that it's like mediocre juice is kind of when I think of it, right? If you're
Yeah.
not on the side of like it's a problem for you and really
Yeah.
wrecking your life, then what
Yeah.
it does is it just keeps you running at a mediocre level, like just not hitting what you are capable of, and you don't even see it.
Mediocre juice is so funny. Like that is so true.
Yeah.
And that's probably how, by the way, how I first saw you. Like if I stopped to really think hard about it, that it was definitely through Anne. That's funny and not surprising at the same time. I'm actually marrying Anne and her husband in 2.5 weeks. That's
Oh my gosh, that's so exciting. Yeah.
I need this nervous system thing, I need this breathing technique quickly. That's going to be a fun one.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah. What's your definition of success?
Actually, I think that part of that definition, you had a post up on Instagram today, and it's making a living. I think that is a true definition of a success. So if you are, for me, the idea is to be able to do all of the things that I am deeply fascinated at, and maybe not all of them being good. I'm not really great at them yet, but be able to go all in on them and build my skills at them at the same time as sharing that with other people, inspiring them, and making a hell of a lot of money doing it.
Yeah, no, I love that. When I was like, that just came to me in a moment over the weekend where it's like, I mean, that's the ultimate. I agree with you. I mean, I just feel like if you're able to make a good living, like you've won, like you've figured out the game.
Yeah, you have cracked the code of life. Because I think if you're doing that, what's happening too is you're creating a massive impact. And when we are adopting habits that are in the realm of a high achiever, high performance, in the health and wellness realm, I just think that you're doing such a great service to the world as a whole that if you can be compensated for that, then that's where it's at.
What is the name of your company?
It's Corrine Phelps Coaching and Consulting.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you use Super Connector, or right? I've seen.
So I have a podcast, Super Expander.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Super Expander.
Super Expander. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And so, how can people discover you and actually become a member and get coached by you?
Yes. Well, come over, listen to the podcast. I feel like we should have you on and have a whole nother conversation over there.
Would love
and then
that.
They can come check you out and listen.
Would love that.
It's so fun to switch roles and be the person who gets to answer the questions.
For
Check out the Super Expander podcast. I have a breathwork membership, which has all sorts of different tools and things inside. That's called Cultivate, which is, the idea behind that is we're always cultivating our next level.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn, pretty much any social media platform. I'm there. You can find me. Come say hi. I love to have conversations in the DMs.
That's awesome. How did you initially transition into coaching? Like what was the inspiration and how do you get started doing that? I'm just curious.
Wow. So in, Pilates, yoga, when I was doing that, I was already doing a form of actually nervous system regulation coaching already in that. Sure. And I realized that later. And so I was using my coaching skills there. But when COVID hit, I started to just feel like, this is a crazy story. I'm never sure if I've ever told this one on the air or not. But
yes, let's go.
I had a moment where I was like running between all the places. I hit burnout like crazy. During COVID, I actually was busier than I had ever been. I didn't let it stop me at all. My business was growing. And so I was running late for an appointment. And what happened was I actually clicked on Zoom and I started teaching a client yoga while I was driving. Like I was like, oh, I'm just going to put us off camera and I'm driving. And I had this moment of, I didn't tell them I was driving, but I had this moment of like, if I am driving and I am able to do this thing that I'm doing right now, teaching this client, there is something so wrong that I could be like, inhale, right leg, high, exhale, low lunge, go ahead and sink into it just a little bit deeper. Take that pinky toe over to the right, just one more inch. And I'm like, this is bananas. And
But
this is
man,
a
that's
moment where you need to stop and be like, what are you doing with your life?
That's so great. That is a great story.
Yeah. So that was the moment where I was like, I really need to kind of figure out what it is that I'm going to do next, how I'm going to do it. And so I really had to explore the intersections of my skills, what I love. And there was a period of time where I just did straight business coaching because I was like, oh, I have to burn this bridge too. And what I also realized is that this health and wellness, high performance, you're never going to take it out of me. It is who I am. I live it. I breathe it. And why would I want to take something that I'm like really good at and I've been doing and mastering for all of this time? I just needed to reinvent it and reiterate it.
And so for you, it's just kind of evolved. It's been an organic journey for you, right?
Very organic. I get to a place where I'm like, oh, I need to tweak this a little bit. I need to change this a little bit. Let's try this. So it's a lot of dabbling, a lot of trying. And every time that I have my own breakthrough, then I try to bring that wisdom to my clients. I have had burnout extreme twice, 3 times actually. Third time I found myself sitting in an emergency room thinking I was having a heart attack, which is where this HRV coherence breathing came from.
Well, how long ago was that for you?
That was 4.5 years ago. Yeah.
Okay. And it was a panic attack?
Yep. Panic attack. And the ER doctor was like, I think you're just really burnt out. Like, how much do you work? And I'm like, I mean, every day I'm up at 5, I'm working till 10, 11 p.m. I don't know the last time I had a day off.
Yeah, that'll do it. That makes sense. It's interesting though, because your mind is so powerful that, experiencing, and I had panic attacks like after losing my mom, and they were uncontrollable. And it's a long time ago now. So it's like, I was such a different person also, and so young dealing with all of that. But it's, I really feel for people who deal with panic attacks, and it's such a terrible feeling. And it
is. But you know what I really came to discover about anxiety and panic attacks is that when you start to really understand where they're coming from, the problem is that your head's in one place, your heart's in another, and neither one of them is where your feet are. And the more you can start to get present in your body, then the less those panic attacks start to happen. Because you really, if you drop into presence in your body, it's really hard to be or here.
Right. It's usually fear of the future or, things that have happened in the past. When you're fully present, it's tough to lose yourself.
Absolutely.
So how do you look at, how do you set up goals for yourself? Do you actually look at anything, speaking of KPIs, just in terms of years or quarters or months, professionally and personally? How do you look at that?
Yeah. So I like to look at them more on a year base. I think sometimes I love the idea of big vision, big goals, but sometimes the big vision, big goals, when we focus on them, I set them and then I put them on the shelf. I come back and check on them at the end of every year to see if I'm making progress, but I like to reverse engineer myself to those places, because when we get stuck on the big goals, there's such a big gap between that and where we are. Sometimes that makes it really hard to take action. And so I set goals both physically, personally, financially, and I try to inch towards them. And I reverse engineer those to check in on them quarterly, even down to daily and weekly. So I try to create my action steps and all of those things in alignment to move myself towards these smaller goals. So you keep your dopamine levels up here instead of having them tank on you.
Is there, do you believe in the concept of setting goals really, really high, essentially? So in the event you don't achieve them, you still achieved a lot? Or do you like to make them more maybe realistic?
Oh, no, I definitely believe in setting big, huge, blow your own mind kind of goals, things that you are is that really even ever going to happen? And then using visualization to start to really let your body believe that it's possible. And then setting the smaller goals that are based on those. And failure is, the more you get used to failure, the better off you are, right? That's the indicator you're on the right track.
Totally agree. And you're just, there's no such thing as failing. It's just learning. right?
Absolutely. Feedback.
And if you're too afraid of failing or other people's opinions, you're never going to accomplish anything great.
Absolutely. The more, as I think one of the things that I think I've come away with social media, and like I've muted, so like I have actually only a few people pop up in my feed. You are one of them because I've muted so many, because you can get so sucked into that idea of like, oh, that person's doing that thing. And you stop thinking for yourself and you stop actually feeling like bold to take risks.
Yeah. It's funny because I realized today, I feel like my stories are just like the same thing over and over again, that I just kind of laugh that people actually even watch them, because it's like it's not always the case, but I just feel like I use it as to check the boxes and accountability tool for myself, that literally, like, whether anybody watched them or not, it would make no difference to me. I do obviously like if it has a positive impact on people, that's awesome. But at the same time, I'm literally just holding myself accountable and having fun, because a lot of my day is just not fun. So it's kind of like a relief from the monotony.
Well, that's the secret sauce, right? As long as you're having fun.
Totally.
That's one of the most magnetic sort of energies that you can have. And doing that, our subconscious mind loves repetition. So people watching it every single time, it's just going a little deeper, and you're helping them become the person that they want to be.
I'm just stuck. I appreciate that. I'm just stuck on the thought of like, I used to be a content creator and I used to create long form videos. I had a vlog for 5 years straight, a weekly video. And it really helped me develop so much personally, professionally, all the things. And I haven't really been inspired to do that, but I enjoy being creative. I'm a savage when it comes to business as well. So I'm like right and left brain, and I need to be really, really, I need to do both or I'm not whole, so I just feel like I want to impact more people and help them, deal with life the way that I feel like I've been able to, and been able to grow so much and do things that I never quite thought possible.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of trying to figure that out right now.
I think you're on the right track. And if you're feeling like you need a dose of creativity, you might need to carve a little bit of space into somewhere in your life. Because that's when we are feeling that, like, I can't tap into my creativity, it's usually because things are packed a little too tightly.
I agree. I have a tendency to do that. That makes sense. What would you like to tell the community, the audience? What would you leave them with? A couple thoughts.
Well, I think that learning how to be a good steward of your nervous system is literally our responsibility. But when you make it your responsibility, that's what's going to be the changer for the world. Because if everyone was in charge of how they felt internally and how they will be in control of how they respond externally, which will cause a massive ripple effect. Something that I always say is that your nervous system is your moneymaker. And if you can start to regulate it, you're also going to start to create more income, more impact, more performance in your life.
Do you feel that, self-awareness is such a critical thing, in my opinion, because I feel like I'm very in tune with where I'm lacking, where I'm, excelling, and just being very mindful of those things. And I'm very honest with myself. And I think a lot of people in my experience either, are some way and they don't necessarily realize they are. And how do you help people? How do you help somebody who, thinks they're doing all the right things, but is still dealing with anxiety? You know what I mean? I just feel like so many people don't realize how difficult it is to truly do that work every day and make it a priority, and how much you really have to sacrifice and do the hard things rather than take the easy way out. That's how you build the confidence and how everything, really gets better in your life. But I don't know that everybody even cares to do that. They'd rather just drink alcohol, sit on a couch, and numb themselves from their current reality. And I was that way once too. That's why I'm saying it, because until I woke up and wanted to change myself, no matter who I spoke to, if it didn't like resonate with me and I didn't really want to make the changes myself, I guess it's almost like I was unhelpable at that place in my life.
Yeah, I think the only thing that you can do, right? You can never change someone you can never change someone. They have to desire and become aware. And so it's consistent conversation and just being really empathetic and open and having the door open. What I love about using breath work is it's an experiential thing. So when you experience it, I don't have to tell you. And telling someone is rarely effective anyways. So if I can have a conversation with you and build enough trust to invite you into my world, to have an experience with me in terms of breath work, I promise you, you're going to feel something. And I promise you, there will be a seed that may not, it'll be planted and it may not happen to bloom or sprout immediately, but there will be a point in time that it'll sprout. And I don't need the myself that planted it. I just know that this is a thing that will happen.
I love that. So for the people listening that actually want to experience that, how do they get in touch with you to coordinate that?
Oh, they should just come say hi to me on Instagram and say that they want to. Or if they're in New York City, then they should come take a class at the Remedy Place. I'm there on Saturday mornings at 11:15. You should come take a class.
Yeah, I love that. I have to come.
I would love for you to come.
I know. I need to make that happen.
I'm actually sometimes doing them at Solid Core in Dumbo. We do a combo. I wind down and do a breath work at the end.
Amazing. Yeah, weekends are tough. If kids' sports are like my entire weekend now.
I know they are. When you have little ones, that's how it is.
That is how it is. But we have to make that happen. So, listen, this has been an absolute pleasure, and I would love to do it again on the flip. So we're gonna have to make that happen.
We are going to have to make that happen.
For sure. Well, thank you so much. It's so nice to actually finally have a conversation with you. And I learned a lot today. I think everyone else did as well. So thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure, a joy, and I can't wait to have you on the Super Expander.
Let's do it.